I'm Fred McMurray, which means this must be...
Pillars of Franchising. Pillars of Franchising.
We at the Pillars of Franchising team would like to express our gratitude to FeedSpot for listing us as number one in their 2023 list of top 50 franchising podcasts that you should listen to. Thank you from everyone here at Pillars of Franchising.
Happy Friday Eve, Sarah. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing great. The sun is out, sort of. That always makes the day a little better.
Goes on and off, yes. I'm kind of happy when it rains, though, so.
Yeah, but you have chickens and the farm, and so I can see why that is, right?
Yes, we like a good watered garden.
Excellent. So, hey, what do we want to talk about today?
So let's talk about financials with getting a franchise. What are like some financial requirements that you need when you're looking to get a franchise or multiple franchises?
So that is a very good question, and it happens to be a loaded question, right? Because there are a lot of different ways that you can go about funding a franchise. We all know there is having money set aside in your 401k, and they do things like a 401k rollover. We know there is traditionally having savings. You can always take a home equity line on your house. Well, that's not always what I would recommend. It is an option. And then there are a lot of SBA options. I will tell you the number one thing that people don't realize is that when you're looking to buy a franchise, if you have filed bankruptcy within like the last 7 years, it's probably not a good time to apply to get a loan. And sometimes, I get talking with people and they're so excited and I even forget to ask that question. And then I find out, oh gosh, we got a recent bankruptcy and we can't move forward with that franchise purchase. So that's a really big one. And, I was just talking to one of our great friends that we had on the show not too long ago today. We were doing a funding conversation with somebody else. And we talked about the new SBA loans, and not new, the loans, but today, like the interest rates and things. And so that's something that you have to really think about is what does it look like when you get where you're servicing debt, right? So the SBA wants to know that above and beyond your profit and your owner's salary, that you can still afford to service the debt. So a lot of things go into determining how much and how you get money. Jerry and previously David had talked about getting some investors, getting a group of friends or maybe business people, to come up with the money. That's another great way to do it. But again, one of the big things that I would say to people, and often it knocks them out of the finance piece, is don't quit your day job. Do not quit your job until you've qualified and closed on the loan, because the SBA wants to know that you indeed have an income and can make those payments. It's kind of weird because they know you're going to be leaving that job because you're going to be opening a business, but they want to see that you have it right now. So I hope those answered some of your questions. We could certainly go down the rabbit hole in a plethora of ways when it comes to how to fund my franchise. I will tell you could go back into old episodes and actually look at Al Lesko with Fund My Franchise. He's on one of our older episodes and he's got some great information. Don't forget that interest rates are not really the best right now. So right now the SBA is charging 8%. And when you go through a bank for an SBA loan, they could go anywhere from 2.75 up to 6% on top of that 8%. So money can get really expensive. Doesn't mean it's a bad time to buy. It just means you need to understand what it is that you're getting into.
Right. Yeah, that's great. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah. If you want more information, check out our website, pillarsoffranchising.com.
Thank you.
Here we are.
Look at that.
I've got to unmute you guys because I think I muted you. Are y'all unmuted? Nope. I was trying to be so clever. Winn.
Winn needs to be unmuted.
Yep, I can't unmute him.
There I am.
There you are. John, can you unmute? Well, they're figuring it out. I would like to welcome you all to a fantastic show today. I had the pleasure of meeting the gentleman from the Salty Dawg Pet Salon, which I love that name anyway. And we're going to talk a little bit about how they got here, what it costs to invest in the Salty Dawg, where they're looking to grow, and all other kinds of things. So with that, John, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to be here?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me on the show. It's very exciting. And I love talking about pets. I love talking about franchising, and I love talking about Salty Dawg. So thank you for that. But Salty Dawg it's a cool new little franchise in the pet space where we're focusing on grooming and pet care services, as well as getting into food, toys, and treats, and just really trying to become an all-encompassing pet service industry. The cool little twist we have is we decided to try and with our backgrounds and see if we could get hairdressers and teach them how to groom dogs, right? So if they're good enough to do your hair, hopefully they're good enough to do your pet's hair. And, we use products that are tested on humans first. And of course, people that are trained on humans first. So that's kind of our little syncrasy that kind of sets us apart. But yeah, we got into the pet space. So my background, I'm a franchisee of 17 years in Paul Mitchell, the school, and I've been creating hairdressers for the last 17 years and been part of a network where we've created 250,000 hairdressers over the last handful of years. And so a lot of them are doing and fulfilling their dream. They're doing hair on humans, and a lot of them don't really like people. They like dogs way better. So I don't know
that I would like all that drama every day myself, to be honest.
I mean, what's better than working with dogs all day, right?
Yeah.
But then this thing happened. If you're an entrepreneur, I swear your head's always on a swivel and you're always looking for opportunity. And where there's a problem, the market says, hey, there's a problem. Where's the solution? Try finding a groomer. If you have a pet and you're trying to get him groomed, good luck. Yep. So like my partner, Winn, kind of disrupted the industry 20 years ago in hair. Try finding a hairdresser 20, 30 years ago. Winn went up and created a company and said, you know what, we're going to create hairdressers. So I call up Winn and I said, hey, I think we have the same issue with grooming, and can we make it sexy and cool? And he's like, yeah. So let's go ahead and see if we've got some hairdressers that might want to use all the hard skills that they've learned, clipper over comb, scissor over comb, and can we convert it into grooming dogs and really kind of change the industry, change that standard? And so we tested it, we found out we could do it, and then we kind of jumped in feet first and then really put all the processes in place. So yeah.
That's awesome. So Winn, you started this venture long ago with Paul Mitchell Schools, right? You're doing the schools.
Yes, I actually opened up my first beauty school almost 40 years ago. And then about 22 years ago, I went into partnership with John Paul DeJoria, the man who was one of the co-founders for the Paul Mitchell hair product company.
Right.
We became partners. I think our original goal, somebody even captured me on video saying this, that, gosh, we're going to be so successful one day that we're going to open up 7 of these locations. And now we have over 110. So
wow.
There you go.
That's
and especially today, I mean, it's kind of like one of the trades, right? You people need people who know how to do this skill. I think it's kind of a form of art myself, but it's certainly a skill that somebody's got to be trained to do.
The pet industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. If I'm not correct here, let me know. I travel a lot, and one of the reasons that people buy an RV to travel with is so they can take their pets, and it's usually not one pet, and it's not just dogs. Anything from parrots to pigs to of course, lots of dogs and cats. As an example, we have a doormat that says, dogs welcome, people tolerated.
Yes.
Yes.
Now that's what you need at the salon, right?
Yeah,
That's
right.
like a really good door sign.
Yes.
So when John came to you with this idea about pets, like, was your first reaction like, what? Or
No.
do you have pets? Did you actually experience the need for this?
Oh, absolutely. And I still experience the need for it. I have 2 dogs. It's amazing that I end up spending more money to have my dogs groomed than I spend money to have my mother-in-law groomed. So yeah, we know. And if you've ever had to leave town and board your dogs, my gosh, you could put them at the Ritz-Carlton and put them in a room and spend less money for that. So
Yeah.
the money that we spend, Ray, you're right. The money that we spend on our pets is just incredible. And what's happening in the pet industry overall, from food and toys and treats and grooming is just booming. It was booming prior to the pandemic, and now, oh my gosh, just what a great industry to get into.
Yeah.
People realize that pets are usually better than having a lot of friends, because they can get along with them. But I do have a quick question for you guys. One of the things that I have a Pomeranian, okay, and I went to one dog groomer and it was, X amount of dollars. I went to another dog groomer and they said, oh yes, we will style that dog for you. So do you distinguish that at all, as far as having your dog styled into whatever the latest trend is, to just having a haircut?
Yeah, great question. I thought you were going to go in a different direction regarding price, because I love that question. But anyway,
it's about the same thing.
Yeah. Well, so basically, here's the thing: keeping it simple. I don't know about you, but as a consumer, I like to go into a place. It's a price. It's fairly simple to understand, and I get it. I can connect the dots very simply on maybe why this was $5 more. But when it starts layering, then it's a little annoying. And so what we wanted to do was go in. And so we look at the dog, we look at the hair texture, we look at the length, and then we look at how detailed. So there's a lifestyle groom, which is probably what I would call like a one length. Some people, it can be a shave, it could be an inch, it could be a certain length, right? So there's a lifestyle groom because we want our dogs clean. We want their mats clean because they live in our home. They sleep on our bed, they're on our couch, right? And then there are people that want breed specific cuts, and those require quite a bit more skill. And so that's a different category. And so there's more time involved. There's a lot more finish. But the cool part about kind of, even along with our facility, the way we style and finish a dog, there's a lot of really, like a groomer used to take a dog from cradle to grave. That means bathe them, the labor of removing hair, and then finishing it up. What we do is we divide our service into basically 3 steps. And the third step is style and finish. So we really focus on, just like a hairdresser, style and finish. As a matter of fact, I cut a doll head one time to see if I could cut hair. And I did okay. But when my wife came in, who's a hairdresser, and did the style and finish, it looked killer. And I took it to the school and everyone was like, oh my God, it's so great. It was all in the style and finish, trust me. And you can hide a lot, if you know how to style and finish. But again, that's the art and the skill. So what we try to do is really take the people that have that skill and give them more opportunity to have the dogs leave our place looking really good. And the other 2 steps are career building steps. And so we really work towards that. But as far as like pricing, keep it simple. Have an understanding. So if you have a dog that has a poodle of any kind of poodle mix in it, that is a different deal altogether, right? And there's a lot of care with that, and most people don't know that. So if you've got a dog that has basically 2 coats and we're just trying to remove a coat, so we try to be really upfront and very simple with pricing, and I think that works for us. And again, lifestyle groom is kind of the most popular. Hey, take it down to this length, and then clean everything up, make it look good, make it smell good. We're good to go.
Okay, so I have a lot of questions here. So I, like you, once had a doll with long hair and decided I was going to try my hand at being a hairdresser. like the doll Chucky with his hair all mashed up and
Yeah.
that's what my poor doll looked like. And my mom said, I don't think you're going to be a hairdresser. But what if I love this concept, even though I can't cut hair to save my life? Do I have to be a hairdresser?
No,
No.
thank you for asking that, because I get excited about hairdressers because I love hairdressers. I've been a part of that my whole life. So, but no, as a matter of fact, we focus very hard on, we basically have 3 main training tracks. So we have a track that's for a hairdresser to really focus on grooming, anatomy, techniques, and things like that. Then we have a track that takes a groomer and we spend more time on our culture and how we do things, how we communicate, how you operate within our world, right?
Right.
The third track would be someone that says, hey, this is a passion purchase. I really would like to be a groomer. I don't even know how to hold scissors, right?
Yeah.
We got a track for that. Obviously, the time is different for the level of skill set with those. When you start putting very sharp scissors near a dog's face and you don't know what you're doing, things can go bad real quick. So that person will take a little bit longer, but we have a track for that. And we actually have quite a few that do that.
Well, one of the things that there's a couple things, and when I'm wondering whose idea this was, the idea of the aromatherapy, right? So I walk into my groomer and I immediately smell wet dog. When a consumer walks into Salty Dawg, they don't necessarily smell that. Did you have a hand in that?
We both did. And our time within the beauty industry absolutely has paid off too, because I'm sure you probably experienced that walking into a salon where there can be fumes from chemical services being performed in a salon that might not be very attractive. And so
you mean like the old school perm?
There you go. Only not so old school anymore.
Yeah,
it's all coming back, sweetheart. It's all coming back. So
oh no.
yeah.
Even for
the
guys.
hair will still be straight. Well, I think that's a really interesting thing. So when John was talking to me on the franchise hot seat, that was one thing that really got my attention, is that you pump in this aromatherapy. So when you walk into the salon, the pet salon, it actually smells welcoming, and you don't have that horrid wet fur smell.
Yeah, and it's all glass. So not only do you have a great shopping experience because it smells good. I love the Westin and the W hotels. Those, exactly when you walk in what they smell like.
Yeah.
You know your home. That's how it is at Salty. Then we have all glass, so you can see what's happening with your dog at all times. Now, there's a lot of work with that. That is, I'll tell you, you talk to a lot of groomers like that's a horrible idea. I get it. It's because you're responsible for the way you're treating the pet, and you do have to work with the pet. And some people aren't used to seeing that, but we're not afraid to communicate what we're doing because it's in the best interest of the pet. So it's a fantastic layout. I mean, I've never been, and that's really what started this part of this whole concept, was taking my dog in. They took it behind closed doors. I go to pick it up. It's a different dog for 2 days. What is going on back there? And so I wanted to make sure everything was just transparent, totally see-through. You could see it all.
I think that's a great idea. And for people who are looking to invest, aside from just the grooming charges, what else do you do to help raise your average unit volume, so franchisees can kind of get an idea of how much money they could sort of make in this model?
Yeah, so we've put a heavy focus into the front side of the house. So food, toys, and treats. Heavy emphasis on, and there's just a huge push. Heavy emphasis on like bakery items, custom items. We have these really cool cakes that honestly, the sugar smell, it's like the old waffle cones, when you go into the ice cream store. Oh man, walk in there, you smell that. And then, these cakes look so good. And then they have these edible markers where you can write the pet's name on there. So we celebrate birthdays. We have cookies that are so ridiculously big. And then we have the smallest dogs walking around with these things in their mouth. It is hilarious. And it's so much fun.
Do you have pictures of that somewhere? I got to see that on TikTok or something. That just sounds hysterical. Well, in Winn, I hate to ask the guy with no hair about the product.
I knew that was coming. I knew it was coming. The guy who's in the beauty industry with no hair, Kristin, you just couldn't resist, could you?
I couldn't, but I just love your head. I would rub it if I could.
Thank you.
So can you tell me, Can you tell me about the products that you use on the dogs? Because I know that's a signature thing too, right?
Yeah, but we're not exclusive to any one brand. Within the Paul Mitchell School world, there is a dog product called John Paul Pet.
Okay.
So named after John Paul DeGioia. The majority of our Paul Mitchell schools also carry that line. There's quite a few salons and grooming stores that also carry that line, and we do as well.
Okay. And so as the franchisor for the schools, when did the schools start? When did you start franchising those?
22 years ago.
Wow.
So together, again, John Paul and I opened up I was already in the school business for 20 years before John Paul and I became partners. Together, he and I opened up a flagship facility in Southern California. And like I said earlier, the plan was we're going to open up 7 of those around the country. And then we just got, without showing up to one franchise show, we went to no conventions, we had no brokers, and just organically, it just blew up.
Wow.
To like I said, now 20 years later with over 110 locations.
Wow.
Well, I have to tell you, and Ray, I'm sorry, were you going to say something? Because I can just.
Yeah. Well, before the show gets completely to the dogs, we need to start talking about the nitty gritty, and that's how much it's going to cost a person to get into the franchise, because this sounds really interesting. I know there's a lot of people who love dogs, so they're probably saying, "Yes, I'd love to be doing this."
Yeah, I'll touch on that. But first, let me say this. The reason why we're talking so much about hairdressers is if you're starting a business right now and you need people, good luck. And so what was important to us is, okay, let's approach every problem and let's see if we can solve it. So we sit down and we're like, all right, where's the workforce coming from? So the idea of the initial wave of maybe making a shift within the industry was going to come from what we know, which was hairdressers. Let's start there. And not just Paul Mitchell hairdressers, any hairdresser, anyone that has experience with hair, let's start with them. But obviously that's going to evolve. I mean, it can't feed the machine completely, but within each store, we've built a full curriculum system that you're going to be able to train tomorrow's groomer. It's a kinetic model. It's fed by its career path, its broadband, its coaching. We teach you how to do all that. So you're going to eventually make more style and finish people than you have tables, which then means the next store is ready to be teed up and open. So that's why we're talking so much about hairdressers, and also the time to train them. It's one thing to say, oh, there's all these people who want to be groomers, but if it takes 5 years to train you, that's no good.
No.
So
that was the benefit, the advantage of John and I being in the hairdressing industry with Paul Mitchell schools, because we are graduating thousands of future hairdressers every single year. And we started this club within our schools, again, 20 years ago, called John Paul Pet Club. So it was the idea of, we have students within our schools. We want to be really good citizens and neighbors in every community that we have a business. We want to be able to give back and make a difference in that community, and for a variety of causes. And obviously one of the causes was animal related, animal health, rescue. And so we started these John Paul Pet Clubs within our schools, and they were just overwhelmingly successful. It was, gosh, how many of our students, they love animals. We raised and donated well over $800,000 to Morris Animal Foundation, which was headed up by Betty White. So we partnered with Betty White. We have given hundreds of thousands of dollars to Best Friends Animal Sanctuary, to local chapters, rescue. And so it was that background that John and I had in the Paul Mitchell school world, where we got to see firsthand how many of our students and team members were just so passionate about animals. So this was just kind of a natural progression.
Can I tell you how powerful that is for your brand? And I know, John, we spoke earlier that you also do that for animals that are up for adoption, right? You often do that. And, when I was looking to buy my franchise, a lot of things were very similar, but the one thing that tilted the scale was the fact that there was a way already built in for me to help the community and to give back. And, recently I was asked to actually make a video to remind the newer owners of our model why I got into it, why it was so important, because, over time it gets watered down if you don't keep talking about it. But, hats off to you guys for being forward thinking and giving back to the community, because that is a huge piece of being marketable for potential investors or buyers.
Thank you. We really would not know how to do it otherwise.
Yeah.
And it's not something that we casually talk about here and there. This is a huge, big focus in what we do in not only in our Paw Patrol School world, but in our Salty Dawg world as well. One of our belief systems is service is the rent that we pay for room on this earth. So how we look at it is all of us are taking up space on this planet, which means we have to pay rent for that space. And the rent that we pay is by giving back, making a difference in our communities.
Excellent.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
So,
Well, let's get back to the
Yeah.
Our audience
Exactly.
wants to know.
Yeah.
Ray's ready to write a check. So give Ray the amount. Tell him
I
how
was
much.
too. I think Ray and I need to go together on something.
Yeah. So on the low end, because the space size doesn't fluctuate too much. I mean, we're looking between 1,700 and 2,000 square foot space. Very good for the urban environment. Very good for high traffic area. On the low end, you're looking at around 210,000. On the high end, 350, and that's franchise fee and everything included. And we have from real estate to architect to one of the most amazing FF&E designers in the world. Actually, he's been he's won several awards in the hairdressing business, kind of it's Naha, and he just builds phenomenal spaces. So that's one of our advantages too. I know there's a lot of spaces out there, but I think when you walk in them, maybe you don't feel like the space was built for the care for the pet. Like we want the service to be right.
Yep.
So that humanizing kind of factor. So our space, definitely, when you walk in, you immediately, you know, it's franchised and you know, it's well thought out and planned. So that's kind of the spread for the cost.
Now, do you offer a model, or is it kind of in your brains thinking about the whole mobile pet? Because people really got into that mobile thing, especially during COVID. Is that on the radar for you?
It is not. I'll tell you, I'm a numbers guy. I have dissected mobile a million ways, and I cannot figure out how that becomes profitable. It's definitely difficult to scale, and there's tons of liability. We already have enough liability bringing the pet into our environment, which we can control, let alone send an employee and someone. So if we ever do anything mobile, it'll just be from a PR perspective to do some things for charity, take our skills to the site kind of thing, but not as a business, not as a revenue stream.
Awesome. I think that's actually a really great answer, because you also have an atmosphere that you're trying to protect that I don't think you could get in a mobile vehicle unless you had the Pope Mobile.
Yeah, right.
You know, if all we were doing is selling a grooming service, well, then maybe, but that's not what we're selling. We're selling an experience. I think most pet owners who have taken their dog to a pet grooming, oftentimes those are ma and pa type experiences, and all they got was they got their dog bathed and groomed. That was it. There was not an experience. You brought up the aroma and the smell. John brought up the fact that it's very transparent and you can see what's happening. You walk into these stores and you can tell, wow, this is a high-end place.
Yeah. But what's interesting is your prices aren't off the charts. So you walk into this bougie salon, but you're not paying those kinds of prices necessarily, right?
Yeah. Thanks for pointing that out. So there's a reason, there's a lot of thought behind the pricing, and it has to do with what profit margin do we want to be at and what's your cost. If you look at your fixed cost and you look at what your hours of operation are, you know what you want to make in the profit, you know what you need to charge per hour. But here's the thing, when you, for example, in the mobile versus us, one of the things that we're good at is breaking things apart, highly specializing those things and grow. So if we've got a bather that we've dialed in, trained, and they can crank out baths, right? Then they're feeding this middle person that's basically just the labor of removing hair, none of the skill spots, right? And then you go to the groomer. That groomer that does cradle to grave, let's just say the average pet is 3 hours. and it's $90, that's $30 an hour of service revenue. What we're experiencing is we can get a style and finish pet through a skilled groomer $3 an hour. So you go from $90 and basically a service, or I'm sorry, $30 an hour, and we can go to $90 an hour. We can pay people a lot differently when we can generate $90 an hour, but you have to have that system in. And that's not anything new. But the reason why mom and pop grooming place can't do it is if you set your books up for that system and someone doesn't show up and you have no workforce solution.
Yeah.
You have just shot yourself in the foot. So basically this whole system is a massive feeding system. And that's really what the schools are. It's the feeder system for salons. We're building the same thing. It's a feeder system for grooming. And it just kind of keeps that model going.
Yeah. And the interesting thing about that I really like is that you can take someone who maybe is fresh out of high school or whatever, no experience, start them as a bather, and you've created this growth pattern for them, right? An upward trajectory. And a lot of people may not really know what they want to be when they're growing up. I'm still trying to figure it out, right? And so I think it's really cool. Part of a labor solution is to do some hands-on training, and they feel like they've got a future ahead of them.
Yeah, everybody wants a career path. I mean, pay is pay, but man, I want to know, am I doing well? Like, how do I know I'm doing well? We have so much built into our LMS that tells you you're progressing, your times are getting faster, your skill sets are getting better. We want to move you on and mentor you to the next stage. And it's great. And you're right, a high school kid could do it. In our school, we have kids that are in beauty school at night, but during the day, they need a job. And so they like, hey, let's go play with dogs. So they'll come in and bathe. They might not end up becoming groomers. They might go and be hairdressers, but it's such a great fit. And so there's so much opportunity. And again, Kristin, if you bought a franchise, the first thing I'm doing is I'm connecting myself with a local school. And we're going to go in there on a guest artist day, and we're going to talk about what it is you're trying to do. You're trying to disrupt and change. You're trying to create a culture that they're used to. And every time we've done that, it's amazing. So a lot of these kids are going to beauty school. I want to do runway work. I want to be editorial work. I want to be on TV. But then they see this and they see how much fun we have. And it's fun. It's great working with dogs. It's peaceful. Yeah. Not always, but it is peaceful most of the time. So when you're done giving that pitch, you have a dozen names. Yeah. I mean, where do you go to get because I'd like to know, because I need them for my school, but where do you go to get employees? And where can you talk about what you want to talk about? And 12 people go, hey, I'd love to work there.
Well, and Ray and I talk a lot about the best part with that is you start to build that culture of people who love what they do. And then it's like that shampoo, and then they tell two friends and they tell two friends. And next thing you know, it's so on and so on. And you have more people than you need. And to your point, you have to open a second salon. That's the best.
I like that you keep on using that word culture, and that word has been brought up a couple of times during this podcast. And that's a part of this that we haven't really even touched on, the value of the culture. And also what you just said, because that is one of our core belief systems, that you have to love what you do. Yes. You have to love who you do it with.
Yep.
And you have to love who you do it for. Now that's a career path, to love what you do, to love who you do it with, and to love who you do it for. And that's what we're attracting.
Well, I have to tell you, Winn, I have to give you a shout out for this. And I have to be completely honest in that I have not yet got to finish because I just have so many things going on. But you wrote a book called Be Nice or Else. And when you go through it, and then I met you here and we start talking about Salty Dawg, and it really does reflect who you are as a person and what you put into your career, what you put into this brand, what you put into Paul Mitchell schools. I mean, it really, in John too, I mean, even before I understood the model, I met him at a show and I'm like, oh my God, this is just a really cool guy. And he's really excited about pets. And so I really think that becomes contagious. And so I would have to assume when you look for franchisees, do you look for somebody that's a big pet fan? You kind of
yeah, absolutely. And we experienced that in the Paul Mitchell school world as well. We had people who approached us and all they had was money. That's all they had.
Yeah.
They lacked the passion. They lacked the love for the beauty industry. They lacked the desire to make a difference in the lives of young people who are starting off in their brand new careers. They lacked all of those things, and it just wasn't a good fit. Same thing applies to this.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I'm
and
super excited.
I think also too, we do have some franchisees that, I think if I honestly asked them, like, do you absolutely love pets? And they probably would say, yeah. But you know what they do love? The culture, they want to develop people. They want to create opportunity. They're entrepreneurs. They're showing up, so they're part of it. And, when you get a lot of people from different backgrounds and different ideas and you get them together and you brainstorm, you create products that are very difficult to duplicate. You create ideas and systems that are very difficult to walk into a store and steal. When you talk about our culture, it's about how we meet and communicate. A lot of times people just think it's like, just be nice to everybody. That's not necessarily it. It's that we have systems that when we meet, when we talk, who we talk to, we do one-on-ones with all our groomers. We want them to know where they're at in their career path, to get excited and to know that they get time every 2 weeks. They get personal time with the store owner to talk about things that are on their mind. And that keeps the group time positive. The negative stuff, you squash that so much sooner. But the only time you're like Kristin, let me ask you. So you get a phone call, hey, can we chat? Hey, can you talk? You know what that's about. Right. So we don't get that because we talk to our people. So, we're a house of meetings. Again, we're constantly communicating. It's our culture.
It's the manager and business owner of today, unfortunately, that oftentimes thinks and believes that their people do not want to communicate with them. And it's actually the exact opposite, because it's a basic human need that people need to feel that they belong. And part of feeling like I belong to something means that I have a voice. My voice matters. My voice makes a difference. My boss cares about what's happening. Not just am I producing the numbers to earn a paycheck, but do they care about me as an individual, as a human being? Do they care about my growth, not just personally, but in my career as well? So and that's a big part of that culture we're talking about.
That's awesome. That's so cool. I've already got all these ideas in my head. So we got a question from the chat that I wanted to share with you. And obviously all of this, I think people know this is a really, awesome concept. Everybody's feeling good. Everybody loves pets out there. But what items do you think people should read first on the FDD as it pertains to your brands?
Well, particularly for me, if I'm answering this question, and there are things that people immediately go to, right? So they'll go to item 19, they'll go to the cost, and those are to be able to compare apples to apples so that you can figure out, is this right for you? In an emerging brand, I think you got to look and do some background on who started it. There are certain people. There's a guy that's like 7'10" that played basketball that's getting in the chicken business. The guy's successful, right? And as soon as he said, I'm getting in the chicken business, everybody went for it. There are people that just surround themselves, and somehow success breeds success.
Yeah.
If you have, some people stumble on it, but some people are just bred and they'll work through to find success. We hit pitfalls and all right, let's reconvene. How do we pivot? You got to be capitalized. You got to be able to pivot. And I think that when you look at someone's background, so for me, if I'm pitching my brand, you got to look at the story of the three owners, and our other partner is not on, but all three have a very important role and have a history of showing that we can do this, from the franchisee and the franchisor. So I would look at the story. I would look at the industry, pull a report, IBIS World Report, $100 billion is the industry in 2027, they're predicting this to be a $400 billion industry. Where's that coming from?
Yeah.
There's only so much food you can eat. So it's going to be coming from services, right?
Yeah, for sure.
There's no groomers. So if you want to tap into the service side, which is just ready to be gobbled up, you got to go with someone who's producing service providers and who has a track record of doing it. That's us.
That's awesome. That is such a, I have people ask me about emerging brands all the time. And often, there's not a lot of data on the FDD for them to look at.
Right.
for their item 19. And I don't say a lot of data, I mean, the item 19 specifically. And so they're kind of nervous about that. And I always tell them, look at the founders, and then also have a conversation and find out, as one of the founding franchisees, how much involvement, you get in kind of making decisions and kind of planning the direction of where they go. So what are the markets that are hot for you right now? Where are you looking to expand first?
Well, this was crazy. So here's the cool part. Like if you're not sure if we're it, just study other franchises, and you're going to see that find other franchises with their FDD and look at where their sales are at and their average. We are emerging. There's no reason why we can't hit the same numbers that they're going to hit. There's nothing different there. So you look at those markets. So for us right now, I'm focusing on the triangle of Dallas, Houston, Austin. Okay, that's we're located down there. We have stores down there. We can show franchisees, prospective franchisees right away, hey, this is what it looks and feels like. We have a store in Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia, that does very well. So that southeast quarter, the areas that you expect that would have heavy pets, those are areas that the opportunity is it's enormous. I mean, let me ask you, what is the biggest advantage of getting into an emerging brand? Because there is higher risk. There's got to be fit. So what is the advantage of being in an emerging brand?
Yeah. See, I love the idea, because for people who are entrepreneurial and people who want to start from nowhere, and really it's kind of like having that idea of the world is your oyster, right? Like you can do anything with this brand, and the relationship that you have with the founders, because you're so new, you know them by name. You probably know their kids. You probably know, you've probably been to their house for dinner, right? Those are the kinds of things that I think people underestimate the value of. And, in all of these businesses, relationships matter. And
oh my God, Kristin, that was like the best answer ever.
Mm-hmm.
That was perfect.
Jerry, when I met Jerry before the call started, I mean, he owns a ton of franchises, right?
Mm-hmm.
How hard was that to acquire and make sense in certain areas, right?
Yeah.
Because if you can concentrate an area, you can keep your thumb on the pulse, right?
Yeah.
If you're trying to find you want to grow and open up 20 or 30 of a certain franchise that's already established, I bet you're traveling across the country. That's what I have to do with Paul Mitchell, because I had to, I couldn't get a concentrated area because it was just already exploded. So the emerging brand is really, it's for an entrepreneur. And this brand, if you mitigate risk, look at the industry's hot, look at the space, and do we have the answers? And we have the answers for the workforce, we have an answer for the workflow, and we have an answer for the training piece and culture piece. So
let's talk about marketing. Because we talked about that a little bit on Hot Seat. Tell me about the marketing piece for you.
Yeah. So marketing has been one of those things that has been fun in the last probably 4 months, because we have really dug into the AI side of marketing, and it's been mind blowing and fun. And again, I could talk for 4 more hours on that, but so we, our whole thing is in the hair space has always been social media. We've always gone out there. Our kids are very active. It's easy to get to engage them into interaction. And so it's the same within Salty Dawg. So we're really focusing on telling our story through a lot of imagery and seeing that it's fun to work there. The dogs look great. They're amazing. And so it kind of starts there. I will tell you, after meeting you and the Hot Seat, we've done some direct mail, and we've tried that. We've tried traditional things. In the Texas area, because of the location of that store, we've had to do more marketing. Atlanta, Georgia didn't spend $1, not $1 on advertising pre-opening. And that store filled so quickly because of the dog volume and where it's at. It's by the Beltline. So, it's one of those things. I think for us, it's important to tell our story through digital means, because that's where people are receiving it.
Well, I have a guilty confession. I try not to go on social media much because it's like a vortex, right? I get sucked in.
Yeah.
And the worst for me is animals. Like I will watch dogs for hours, right?
Mm-hmm.
And whether it's on a TikTok or it's the world's funniest videos and the dogs are doing something goofy. I mean, and my girlfriends will constantly send me, hey, you guys see this TikTok? And it's a Labradoodle, standing on its head, something. I mean, they are just forever entertaining. And so I agree that that is a great place. Ray, I'm sorry, because I've really like just talked it up, and we do have one question from the audience. No, I don't think they have cows. Is there any chance you're going to start a salty cat franchise? Do you do cats in these too?
So I do have a couple groomers that are passionate about cats, and we will, especially at that location. It is location by location. Please don't hate on me, but it just seems like everybody loves dogs, and that's kind of the group we've attracted.
Yep.
But no, I do have a groomer that is passionate about cats, and so she'll do a lot of cats, but
Well,
no
some
salty cats.
I used to have a rag doll, and that cat had to be shaved. I mean, because she looked ridiculous that way, but otherwise it's completely matted. So there is certainly a need out there, but I agree with you. It depends on where you're at and what the concentration is. Ray, I'm sorry. Do you have more tough questions?
I got one last question I want to ask.
Right.
Do you need franchises near the Chicagoland area?
We do. We have a multi-unit that is getting ready to sign a lease on his first location. But I'll put it this way: my partner, who kind of is well known in the hair business, he has stores in Chicago, or did. I think he's sold out, but he had 157 locations in Chicago. So 5 is just a drop in the bucket. So
Ray, we got to get on this, Ray.
Yes, I know.
Got to get on that north side, man. It's crazy up there.
I'm telling you. I mean,
Lots
even
of
out in
money.
the burbs, right?
Yeah, out
The
western
burbs,
suburbs, here we are.
Yeah. I was out there. I drove by dog park out by Chicago, and it's kind of, I'm trying to remember if it's exactly in between the two towns, but it was kind of a drive. And I ran into some people, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we drive from the city," because then they'll stay for the bulk of the day out there with their dog.
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
Yeah.
And it was packed.
Yeah. It's a great town, and Chicago is a very big dog town.
Oh yeah.
It is. Yeah.
Definitely.
When I do want to make sure you know that we're going to have you on again, because we have so much more to talk to you about. I mean, really, it's been a pleasure having you. And John, I'm so glad we finally get to catch up. I do need to talk to both of you in the next day or so about some of these opportunities that we discussed. And I wish you all the luck with your expansion. I know, people are going to be checking this out on our website through YouTube, but how do they reach you guys?
Oh yeah. So saltydawg.com. I mean, it's by far the easiest place, and all our social channels are at the bottom of that page. But
Awesome.
yeah, I mean, our Salty Dawg Pet Salon Instagram, and you can see what we're doing, and you can see the people having fun. It's important to have fun. If you own it, you manage it, or you work in it, or you're a consumer, and you can see that through just a multitude of ways through social media.
That's awesome. You guys, thank you so much. And I cannot wait to check back in with you, whether it's 6 months or 12 months, because I'm sure your organization is just going to flourish.
Thank you very much. And to be included in this. By the way, I sort of think that I invited myself to be a part of this, Kristin. I think I
consider you part of the package, Winn. It's a package deal. You guys are co-founders. And you know what was really great about it is it really gave us the backstory.
Mhm.
And as an emerging brand, right, we just talked about how important it is to understand the people that have stake in these franchise systems.
Well, we're going to be in Chicago. We're going to be up there in May. So please, we're bringing all of our students together. Like 3 or 4 of our schools are coming together, and we're doing a big event that we'd like to invite you guys to.
Yeah, like 5
I
schools.
must have
Oh, wow.
missed the invitation.
It just barely
got put together.
created, so
Yeah.
Okay.
And
'cause
two
you're
of
not
the
gonna be bringing it
world's
up.
greatest, two of the world's greatest, most motivational speakers you ever hear are speaking. Of course, Winn and Kathy Buckley. It's phenomenal. I will make sure you get the invite, the dates, and if you need me to come pick you up and give you a ride, I'll do that too.
Oh, you're so sweet. I can't wait. I will be there with bells on. And again, thank you both so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Hey, franchise owners, how's your local marketing? Do you feel like you could use some help keeping up with your social media posts and comments and reviews? Do you wonder if you could be doing more to attract local customers? Are you able to identify new move-ins to your local area? At Westvine, we help franchisees like you reach more local customers through digital marketing. With daily monitoring, creative content, and ad placement, and customer data intelligence, we'll get your business in front of the people who want your products or services. We also work with franchisors who need an agency to handle the digital marketing for all of their locations. If you're ready to reach more local customers, give us a call at 805-265-5440 or visit us at westvine.com. That's 805-265-5440 or westvine.com.
And we'd like to thank you all for joining us on the show today. Thank you to John Kanski and Winn Claybaugh of Salty Dawg Pet Salons. Very exciting new emerging brand. We hope you check it out. Check out their Instagram. We appreciate our $1 Million Mentors for their continued commitment and thoughts. And last but not least, a shout out of thanks to our producer, Fred McMurray. I am Kristin Selmeczy, your fourth franchising mentor, losing my voice, and together we are your resource for franchising success. This has been another episode of Pillars of Franchising. Join us again next week at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. And remember, the dream starts here. Have a great week.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.